play is meant to be the lightning rod for all emotion that would have difficulty being expressed in reality. Everything that would not, if we're saying don't hit, don't smash, don't bite, don't do this, well, our responsibility would be to find place for that in play, because there needs to be a place for that.
Because where does it go otherwise, right?
Exactly. And if it doesn't go anywhere, we can't feel it. If we can't feel it, it won't mix. We don't get to self-control. We can't name it. And so it first of all has to move. And play is a place where it moves. The beauty of this is that the nature of play is that it's safe. Not physically safe, it's safe from feelings getting hurt. And so all your emotions can come out to play. As soon as your feelings get hurt, like in recess, if feelings get hurt, it's no longer play. And so play, the essence of play is the safety, it's engaging. And so it's exactly where troubling emotions should come out. Where you can have this attacking energy erupt. We've had this tradition in our own family meal that at the end of the meal we have a dessert, usually chocolates that have silver foil around it. We take the silver foil out and then it's playtime and we throw it at each other. And the kids, the grandkids, just love it. It is so much fun, and they enter into this, gathering them all off the floor and throwing these things, a lot better than throwing food, but throwing these things, and you can just see the frustration energy come down. That's all of this frustration is there, but the issue then is where can you make room for this frustration to come out to play?
And I know from studying your work and having read your book and taking some classes that first law of emotion is that emotion needs expression. Can you explain how play, in your words, how you said that play takes care of emotion?
Yes.
How that happens, or what that is for
yes.
somebody who doesn't know, who's not in the mind of the sun?
Yes, the very first law of emotion, the very nature of emotion is that it seeks expression. It must have expression, but the problem is that some of our big emotions, frustration, alarm, intensified pursuit, some of our emotions, they get in the way of relationships, get in the way of contact and closeness, and we need those. Those are there to serve survival. So how are we going to express these? We need to express them for it to be emotionally healthy. Our emotions need to be expressed so that we can feel them, so that we can name them, so that we can mature emotionally. And play is the answer, because every single emotion should find place in play. And play allows for expression without repercussion. And so it would be our job, for instance, if our 2-year-old was having a tantrum, if our 3-year-old was having, was highly alarmed, and so some obsessive compulsive kind of traits were emerging, and so on. Well, where does that belong? It belongs in play. In play, it doesn't have any repercussion. In play, it's engaging, and we can take our attacking energy into play. We can take our alarm energy into play. We can take our obsessions into play. We can take our compulsions into play. We can take our self-altering instincts into play, to dress up, to identify, all of these kinds of things, all free in play, so that all emotions have a place. And it turns out that these emotional systems need to develop, and in the play mode, they develop in the play mode in the brain. So again, our emotions need to have playgrounds, and it's these playgrounds: storytelling, it's the music, it's the dance, it's the movement, it's the drawing, it's the painting, that you can see the emotion coming out of play, that the brain absolutely needs. That's absolutely required for our emotional health and well-being. When we're coming undone and culture disappears, when we no longer carry the culture of our grandparents and our great-grandparents, and so we become very much involved in outcome-based activities all the time, we lose this place. There's nothing to preserve this play, and play has become an endangered activity. Everything from children's play, which is physical play, to all the emotional play, to all the adult play. It's become an endangered activity. With children alone, even just playground play, it's all kinds of research around that it's fast disappearing. Children are behind screens instead of on the playground, and so on. There's some estimates that we've lost 1/3 of playtime with children, others even more so. And this is having, I believe, and other play theorists believe, this is having huge implications for us, as when the play isn't there, then it doesn't take care of our emotions, and it's paralleling a huge explosion of emotional problems. Anxiety problems are escalating. Aggression problems seem to be escalating. Tension problems seem to be escalating. Some of the play experts trace these back to the emotional brain, that all our basic human problems are rooted in the limbic system in the emotional brain. And if play is meant to take care of our emotion, then when play becomes endangered activity, part of the problem is that it's masked by thinking that video games are play, that screenplay is play. Well, anything that's outcome-based is not true play. And so these really don't count as play. They're not. They are outcome-based. They're not. Many of them are not expressive. They're primarily stimulating, so they don't really count. They're not taking care of the emotions that need to be taken care of. So it is an urgent message. It is a very urgent message. Is that we're not going to turn this thing around in terms of the emotional problems that are escalating among children and adults alike, unless we restore, preserve, safeguard the kind of true play that we need to have in our lives and in the lives of our children. When we lose our playfulness, we feel old. When depression is now being perceived as the opposite of playfulness. The brain is exactly the opposite at the way it presents, and most of the syndromes that children are being diagnosed with, the playfulness is missing. So playfulness is a huge indicator of emotional health and well-being. So yes, it is. If we don't have play, we're going to run ourselves into emotional problems. If we don't have our art, if we don't have our music that we can go to where emotions come out to play, if we don't have our dance, if we don't have our theater, if we don't have our stories where the emotions come out to play, if we don't have our dress up, if we don't have our drawing, then yes. And many of those who have play in their life know this intuitively. But they don't, when you know it intuitively, you don't have words for it. If you don't have words for it, there's no consciousness. And so we're not actually using this knowledge to solve problems in our society. And that's why it's urgent to bring this to a level of consciousness. It's like somebody may say, oh, I know that. My writing has been my salvation emotionally. If I didn't write, I'd go crazy. They say, well, no. Well, we need to bring that into consciousness of how important it is, and know that this is, we are in trouble in our society because we have lost that carrier of play. We have lost a culture that preserves, again, the important against the urgent.
You mentioned that, a lot of the work that you've done, and we know, has been about child development, but actually this is a message for adults, right?
Yes.
So is there an invitation here, or what would you want to say if you're speaking to a parent and adults? You have to be a parent. But
this is as important for the adult as it is for the child. Play is there to take care of our emotions as well. For the child, it is more important because emotion needs to develop. It turns out that all emotional systems require a time of development. And so they are in the developmental stages. So all mammal offspring play, all they do, and they must play. If they don't play, if we deprive them of play, it's just like if you deprive someone of sleep, within 3 or 4 days they start hallucinating, all the cognitive function deteriorates. Well, we find that play is a form of activated rest. If you take the rest out of the system, if you take the play out of the system, we've got emotional disturbance, we've got emotional disroughtness, we've got all kinds of things. So that is equally true of us as adults as it is of children. And my idea of this is if we can get this through our thick heads as adults, if we can really understand this, we'll be much more careful about the kind of play that children need.
I'm just curious how you preserve play in your life.
Well, I've been confronted by what it is that I've been saying.
Right.
When I got into the attachment stuff and I was already a parent, I said, "Oh boy, you know, I've got a lot of work to do here." And in getting into this play stuff, it's confronted me in terms of my, you know, my pianos, where my emotions is. It's confronted me that I need to preserve the place of play, the music, you know, the theater, the stories in my life, in the life of my family. So I've got some culture to build.
But it will keep you young, right?
Yes, yes. So now my next 30 years, or at least, will be committed to play.
Well,